Hello, I'm Stacey from Kwame, a math enthusiast, a teacher of Michelle Camp 2 JHS. As we await the BEC results being released, I want to take you through how our learners are going to be graded. First, I want you to understand that we have two types of assessment scores or assessment testing. One is a non-reference assessment, and then the criterion reference assessment. So what is a non-reference assessment? It is an assessment in which the candidate score is being compared to the other candidates, non-reference, the normal group. So it means that we are going to reference your score with the normal group. That's why it's called the non-reference test. So how did you perform in relation to your other colleagues? You're not looking at how you perform in relation to a standard. While the criterion reference testing is also one that we are looking at how you performed in relation to a standard. So we are looking at a standard like some objectives, and then we give you an assessment test. You take it, and then we look at if you have mastered those particular content, or that you've mastered those particular areas. Then we say that you have done very well. If you've not done well, average. If you've not done well, very bad. We are looking at how you perform based on the standard. So that one, we have a score 80 to 100 is grade 1, 70 to 79 is grade 2, and so on and so on. Is that okay? That's the criterion reference testing. But the non-reference, we don't look at the standard. We look at how you perform in relation to your colleagues. So it's possible that in a non-reference test, you score 80 and not get grade 1. Because if you score 80 and most of your colleagues are scoring above 80, it means that your grade would come down. And then the criterion reference, we set the standard before the exam that if you score 80 to 100, it is an A. If you score this, it's a B. So if all of you score 80 to 100, you all get grade A. Because the standard is that you are all going to get grade A if you score 80 to 100. But for non-reference, it is not so. It depends on the score of your colleagues. So if your colleagues are scoring more than 80, it means that your grades are going to come down. If they are scoring less than 80, it means that your grades are going to be better off than this. That is how it is. BEC is the non-reference test. When do we use non-reference test? We use non-reference test if we want to place um, people into ranks. So an example is if you are running an aptitude test and the number is very huge, I use a non-reference test. So in that case, I look at how you fare as compared to the others. For any selection procedure, non-reference test is preferred in the sense that we look at how you perform as compared to your other colleagues because you are selecting. So aptitude test is part of that. So don't forget that our BC it's an exam that is meant to help us to select our learners into the senior high school. So the best kind of test that we can administer for our BC learners is the non-reference testing. So we don't look at how they have mastered the content, but we are looking at how they fared as compared to their other colleagues. That is why non-reference testing is administered when it comes to the BC. Now, after the non-reference testing, there are a lot of tools that you use. One of the tools is Stanine. That's what WAEC uses currently, Stanine. Why Stanine? What is Stanine all about? Stanine is a standard 9. That is the name, standard 9. It's a 9 band structure that categorizes percentages into 9 performances. In BC, it's going to be grade 1, grade 2, up to grade number 9. Now, because it's the non-reference test, we cannot really say that if you score 80, you get a particular grade. We can only say your grade if we look at how your colleagues also fared in that particular exams. An example is that I scored 80 in maths, and then most of my colleagues scored above 80. Obviously, they have done better than I have done. So they are going to get better grades than I also would get, even though the 80 is a good score. But then because it's a stay 9 or it's a non-reference test, Obviously, we are comparing the scores of you, yours, or mine to all the others. So that is how it works. Now, how does the stanine work? Now we have 4%, we have 7%, we have 12%, we have 17%, 20%, 17%, 12%, 7%, 4%. That is how it works. So the top 4% always gets grade 1, the next 7% always get grade 2, the next 12% always gets grade 3, next 17 always gets grade 4, next 20 in that order to the last 4% gets grade 9. So if you watch carefully, the top and down is the same. Top 4, down, bottom 4. Top 7, next 7, next 7. Next 12, next 12, next 17, next 17, and then 20 is the grade 5. That is the average. Now, why the stay 9? It's believed that in those days, when they categorize people according to height, age, and scores, the metrics are that only few do very well. Only few do not do well at all. Majority of the people are within the average domain. They use height, they use age, they use scores. And that is how come they came out with the state 9 to be used. So now, what does it mean to our candidates? Let's say 600,000 students wrote the BC. Now, what is the top 4%? The top 4% is 4 out of 100, 4 out of 100. Let me do the computation. 4 out of 100 times 600 times. So this goes with 4 times 6,000 is 24,000. What it means is that the top 24,000 scores in each of the 10 subjects or 11 subjects gets grade 1. So it means that I can score 18 in math, score 18 in science, score 18 in social. My 18 in English is grade 1, my 18 in math is grade 2, my 18 in science is grade 3, my 18 in social is grade 4. It depends. Because if it is grade 1, it means that my 80% forms part of the top 24,000 scores in the BC exams, and therefore I get grade 1. Now, if you look at the next 7%, so 7 out of 100 times 600,000. So this goes up, that goes up, multiply. That's 42,000. What it means is that after you select the 24,000 people that will get grade 1, the next 42,000 will also get grade 2. If you look at the next for grade 3, 12 out of 100 times 600,000, if that goes up, and that's 72, that's 7,200. I think it's supposed to be this 72,000, which means that the next 72,000 gets grade 3. So this means that you can get the same score in maths and science. That one can be grade 1, one can be grade 2. But the one that is grade 1 means that it's formed part of the top 4%. The one that is grade 2 means that it formed the next 7%. That is how it works for our learners. So as we are waiting for the bees to release, understand that the score of our learners or the grades that they are going to get do not depend on any mark, but it depends on how far they failed in the exams. So it means that you cannot even compare BC results of two separate years. If I wrote BC last year and wrote BC this year, and I got grade 1 in maths last year and got grade 2 in maths this year, it does not necessarily mean that you are better off in math than I am. What it means is that your score in maths last year forms part of the top 4% scores in mathematics BC. And my score in maths this year formed part of the next 7% in the BC this year. Maybe we don't know the score. My score may be better than yours, but because my year group candidates performed extremely better than I did, that is why I got grade 2. So you cannot compare two different years of results because of that. That is how it works. Now, the last thing I want us to take note of is I've heard people criticizing the Stanine and asking that we resort back to the criterion reference test where there's a standard that we are going to basically look at. Per my opinion, it is not going to hold because imagine we are looking at a standard, a criterion reference test where 80 to 100 is grade 1 and we presented 600,000 candidates and 500,000 candidates got grade 1. Obviously, it's going to make the selection procedure very tedious in the sense that now we are going to look at the best out of the 500. Let's say, in view of that, we got grade 1, grade 1, grade 1. We have about 500,000 students getting a grade 6. Now we want to place them into schools. We are not going to use raw score, and it's going to take a lot of work to be able to place them into schools if there isn't the criterion reference test. So the norm reference is the best, the Stanine is the best to place learners into schools. But what is the challenge with Stanine? Stanine is good, but the influx of examination malpractice is disturbing the Stanine. How is the influx of examination malpractice disturbing our Stanine? This is it. If I have 60 learners in my school, I'm able to do one or two for them in the exams. I get a question beforehand and solve for them, and they are all scoring 90. You have 600 in your school, you do same. You have 900 in your school, you do same. Someone has that in the school, it does same, and they are all scoring 90. What is going to happen is that in that particular year per that subject, the grade 1 is going to start from 90 because the top 24% score, the lowest of it is 90. And someone in the village who did not get any help in a BC, who had a full 80, who is supposed to be part of the top 4%, whose score is supposed to be part of the top 4% scores in mathematics in the country. That person ends up getting to get to it. Meanwhile, genuinely, that person's score is one of the best top 4%. And because of the influx of examination malpractice, that person couldn't get grade 1 in that subject anymore. What happens is that what the state 9 means is that if the highest score in an exam is 47, it tells us that the standards in that subject are dropped, but yes, still we will still get the 24,000 candidates getting grade 1 in that subject. So there is no call for examination malpractice. We would have to allow these learners write the exams and then we see how it goes. So if your learner gets grade 2 or your learner gets grade 9, it doesn't necessarily mean that the learner did not perform, but it means that that learner's score is part of the last 4% in that particular subject. I wish you all the best as to check your results. I'll come your way also without to calculate your aggregate score. Bye bye for now.